Hello, I think I might be able to do this. It's the first time I even considered doing a deck list. I was at the Road to Nationals today with Original Bravo, since Star Wars banned. No, just kidding. I'm normally playing Oldhim, as some of you might know. And I came across a very funny round of UPF where the Guardian player used Earthlord Bounty with Valda and was like, maybe I can just manage something like that also in Bravo. He was playing these rounds on me and those Blessing of Deliverance cards in order to get some Seismic Search tokens. And I was like, okay, Earthlord Bounty definitely works with that. But there's a new card in Uprising called Sift. I can put it like here. And yeah, I'm playing Sift in this Bravo build. But first and foremost, I wanted to bring the spicy part about that over at the beginning. Yeah, Earthlord Bounty Sift draws cards. Creates Seismic Search tokens and makes your stuff cheaper. So that's the ground idea of the deck. But now let's just break it down to equipment and everything. So, of course, chest mostly is Earthlord Bounty. Well, it always is Earthlord Bounty. I'm just kidding. Mostly, the boots are Mage Master boots, for obvious reasons, like every Guardian player knows. The weapon is Anathos. The arms are the Crater Fist. And the head is the Crown of Providence. And it is very important that we use Crown of Providence and not Skullcap for this build. Because we are going to be doing some risky stuff. And then of course we have the Nullrune Hood and the Nullrune Gloves for the Wizard matchup. And the Nullrune Boots also for Wizard and Runeblade matchups, where we need to pitch for the Rune Chance. And I would recommend you use only the boots against Briar, at the experience I had so far. But it might be better if you use the gloves and the boots against Briar sometimes. It also depends on the Briar player, I guess, but my experience showed it is better to use just the boots, and you're high rolling here, so you're really putting pressure on that. So, setting those aside a bit until we get there. I built the deck like having a core of 51 cards and adding 3 cards, 3 playsets for some matchups. Of course, we're playing the Crippling Crush, all 3 of them. No Bravo deck without them. Then also, pretty surely, Spinal Crush. Those will be pretty easily played, sometimes even without paying its mana cost. Its pitch cost. Solely with Seismic Search tokens we can do to Sift, because it happens that you sift a red from Arsenal. You play a red Sift from Arsenal, Sift 4, gain 4 Seismic Search tokens, and then also draw another yellow one, and you can go to as much as 6 or even 7 Seismic Search tokens a turn, which is using up or paying for the whole Crippling Crush. So you just need 1 card to dominate and you're good. That is the plan, to make those crushs cheaper. Then one for the current meta. This one is a little bit wobbly. I don't think that I will keep this in all metas, but at the moment, with a very Phi heavy meta, it is pretty good, because it comes in for 7. If you dominate it, he needs to use his equipments pretty early, if you can play it early, in order to have a turn, because Phi had a lot of 3 or less base attack on his cards. So you can just play that, dominate it, play it, and maybe this will disrupt the whole turn. And now we come to the real fancy stuff that we can only play with this build, in my opinion, and that's Pulverize. I'm running 3 Pulverizes because I tried 2 at the beginning, but I had to say, well, Pulverizes we really need those 3 pulverizers, otherwise it won't work as good. And then 1 red sift. Only 1 red because it doesn't pitch at all. The yellow and the blue one at least pitch a little bit, so you can dominate with the yellow one and even play, use the blue one to pay Crush the Weak, for example. So those have a little bit more variability. I'm running 2 copies of Righteous Cleansing because there are no other payoff cards than those 4 and with this 5 that, in my opinion, are good enough to play. I really don't like the crush effect of this one because it just doesn't impact the game that much, but it is the best we have at the moment. Then, of course, 3 copies of Yellow Sift, and also not missing in any Guardian deck or in any Brawl deck, Tome of Yendel. That's the reason why we have the Mage Master Boots, in order to draw 2 cards, which also triggers our Earthlord Bounty, which also gives us 2 Seismic Surge tokens and even potentially some hit points if it's played from Arsenal. So we're not missing out on that. Next up is the Blue Sift, which we are also playing a whole playset. Then we have another card that also is played and not just used for pitching, Imposing Visage. We only have 1 aura to search out, which is Showtime. So the ideal play for turn 1 is to have a Yellow Sift. If the opponent is second and you're first, play Sift, get 3 blues, Imposing Visage and 2 other blues. Then use Imposing Visage to play Showtime, search out Pulverize, Arsenal it. You're having 3 Seismic Surge tokens from here, and you're pretty good. You can also sometimes use just Sift, and then if you draw Pulverize, you can heave it, so you have 6 Seismic Surge tokens to handle to pay the Pulverize. So such a setup turn is one of the best things that can happen to you turn 1. You can also search a Crippling and ready a Crippling with 4 Seismic Surge tokens, or with 3 Seismic Surge tokens from the Yellow Sift or Red Sift, because you just have 4 cards in hand at the beginning, and also draw 1 card from Showtime, which also creates a Seismic Surge token for the turn after seconds of the 3rd turn. So you're setting up some Seismic Surge tokens each turn, if possible, with some Sift and other draw effects. And also from the 2nd turn on, you try to also crush with attacks. Best case scenario always red. 3 Cranial Crush, mostly used for pitching, but also it's still the best crush card in blue. Terra Sunder 3 times, which is also a card that can be easily just played after Sift, and you can just make your Hammer for 7, Anathos for 7 with Dominate, on hit, draw this card too, which is pretty good. Debilitate is mostly used for blocking or pitching. Same with Macho Grande. Macho Grande can be very useful in the late game if you just have Seismic Surge tokens and play it for free. It's 7 Dominate for free. Thunderquake is also used for pitching and blocking, and sometimes heaving because you want to make Seismic Surge tokens. Now let's just put those together a bit, those who are 3s, in order to have a little bit more space for our next cards to come. We have 3 Crush the Weeks, which is pretty much the same reason why as with the red ones. A Fi needs to block those in order to have a turn. 3 Disables, just to pitch. 3 Chokeslam, just to pitch. I've looked at I have most of the 6 attacks in the blue spot in order to pop some Phantasm. And, of course, to round it all off, we have Grandeur of Valahai. So this is the base deck. Let me just put those a little bit more together. And now let's look at the sideboard, because the sideboard, like I built it, learned from a good friend of mine, to just build the main deck and then add cards to that for depending on the matchup. You add different or more or less cards. He was playing Chain at the beginning, so he sometimes had to add more cards for fatigue matchups in order to have two more turns. So we have the main deck like this. Now the sideboard. Of course, the setup we have with most matchups are 3 red pommels, 3 blue pommels, and 3 sinks. I don't run more defense reactions in this deck because we really need to have the card variety, and we need to get through those cards, and we don't want to be stuck with 7 Seismic Surge tokens and a defense reaction. That's why I really advise you to just use Sink Below, because Sink Below can also dig that one attack that you really need. So this is basically the setup I use for nearly every deck. Of course, if arcane damage is involved, Tome of Fiendel has to go, because we can't use the Mage Master Boots, and this card is not useful without the Mage Master Boots. So if you're going up against Briar or Viserai, you just take this out. And in my opinion, it's the best thing to either put in Rouse the Ancients or an Enlightened Strike. I went for an Enlightened Strike today. It worked out 2 out of 3 times. Pretty good. So I think you should run that one, because you can just, if you have an off turn, you can just swing for 7 with that. And now we're going to the matchup that every Guardian player hates, Prism. For Prism, you take out Crush the Weak, because you need to put in 12 cards. Take out Crush the Weak, put in Rouse the Ancients 3 times, put in Enlightened Strike 3 times, Order 4 3 times, and Zealous Belting Red 3 times. I'm going for the red one because we have fairly many cards that give it go again, and we really need to pressure through more damage if possible. And also, Library isn't played anymore, so that isn't really problem there too. Yeah, that's the deck. I played it today against or in my Road to National. I qualified with it. I went top 4. My first game was against Fi, which is, in my opinion, a very good matchup for this deck. And you just take the cards away, so he doesn't really have a big turn to begin with. And second game was against, I hope I can remember it just from the get-go, was against Fi, then against Viserai. This was a pretty close one, because Viserai can really deal a lot of arcane damage. I normally pitch a lot of that, because I play Oldhim and I play very defensively, but in this deck you can't really do that too good. So you need also to consider that you need to attack, and you need to attack strongly. You can't just attack a bit, you need to attack really hard. And if you don't do that, Viserai will just run you over. I just high rolled into some sifts and then attacked. It worked. It was close. The third game was against Prism, and the Prism player had 2 Auras each turn for 5 turns, so no way of winning that with any Guardian. Game 4 was against Dash. I knew that the player was a boost Dash player, so I didn't board in too much of the aggro plan, but I knew that he has had some of the control-ish cards in there, so yeah, it was just back to high rolling. I just used my ordinary build with the 3 pommel, 3 sinks, and 3 red and blue pommels and the sinks, and it worked. It worked pretty good. After that, I played, that would have been around 4. I played against Oldhim, and I actually lent the deck to my friend, and he just destroyed me because I didn't get to any of the sifts, and this is really the big problem I have with this deck. If you don't see any sifts, you have a real problem with that, because you can't just recover from that. You are having your pulverizers in hand and can't do anything with it. It's just horrible. It happens pretty. It doesn't happen often. It happened to me once, the whole roads today. I think this is also mostly due to running Crown of Providence and not the Skullcap, because with Skullcap the deck wouldn't work at all. And also because Earthlord Bounty, I was thinking of using Blessing of Deliverance. I already made them ready here. I will definitely try it out. Maybe it will work better. I'm not sure. My thoughts is to play 3 blues with and take out the Crush the Weeks in blue, because I really don't play them. I just pitch them, and both block 3. This one costs 3 because this one would make Anathos a little bit worse because of the pitch value that you have to pay to cast it. I really want also to put in the red somehow, but I can't see any way where I can put where I can fit those in. I think it is just those are too expensive. Those would work, and they don't pitch at all. At least I can pitch those. It also draws me a card, it makes a Seismic Surge token, and it also potentially gives me a hit point, which is pretty fine for a blue card if I have it on an off turn. So I will try this out the next chance I get if we have the next CC event. But for now, with this I can say it works pretty decently. I had it brick on me one time totally in the whole road to nationals. After the top 8 cut, I was 4th place. I did play against Viserai again. It worked the same way as the first time, just smacking it with the dominated attacks until they can't block anymore. Works pretty good. And after that I had to play against a Briar deck that I also borrowed to a friend. And that deck just destroyed me. I had to say I had Migrant starting then, and my concentration was a little bit low, but to be fair, this deck isn't really the most complex deck to play. You can just high roll with it and you're good. Yeah, just if you have any ideas how this can possibly be fetched out a little bit more and polished a bit, just let me know. If you have any ideas of cards I can play, let me know. And I hope you liked it. It is a little bit wacky, it is a little bit high rolly, it is just for fun, but I really liked the time I had with it. And if you are thinking about playing Guardian but you don't like the blocking, you really should consider playing this deck for once and just try it out. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a nice day. Bye bye.